Hello everyone and welcome back to Combat Mission Battle for Normandy, where we're going to be engaging in some alternate history right now, because as the more observant of you may have noticed, this here is the Arnhem Bridge, and these here are German troops. So what we're kind of simulating here is that the British airborne did not manage to catch the bridge, or this side of the bridge, capture it unopposed, but instead the Germans managed to get a scratch force in position to intercept them as they approach. What we have here are basically two companies of German troops. It's one battalion, but there's only two companies in it. It's slightly depleted, as it would be in those days. The enemy consists of a British air landing battalion. Not all of it though, it should be about 3 companies or so worth of our airborne troops. Their objective is obviously to capture the bridge, and unfortunately the bridge objective is basically just as wide as the entire map, so I'm kind of forced to just defend the entire width of the map. Because if the enemy gets a foothold in here, even if I'm holding this part, they have neutralized the objective. So what I'm going to try to do here, as you may be able to notice, is hold the enemy back for as long as I can, as far forward possible as I can. Up here at the front, you've got some open ground, relatively open ground, some long lanes of fire down which my machine guns can fire. And once we get back here, if we were to allow the enemy to get in here, or in here, we're at close quarters, and I feel that at that point I'd be at a disadvantage with my German troops, who do have machine guns, but the rest of the squad is generally armed with rifles. The British airborne have a very generous assortment of automatic weapons, Sten guns, Bren guns, etc., and they will be able to beat us in a close-up fight, especially because those are very well trained, well equipped, highly motivated troops, and the troops I have here are averagely motivated, averagely trained, mostly regular troops, and I don't think they'd be able to win a fight up close with the British airborne. So that's why I've kind of tried to keep the enemy at a standoff distance as much as I can. It's still an urban battle, so they're gonna be able to get in close, but I've tried to select avenues of approach that I might use. The most obvious ones are this street right here, and these 2 streets, kind of intersecting streets right here, and finally the river embankment right here. Now this I've defended simply by putting a machine gun squad right here, which can fire all the way down the boulevard here, all the way up there to where the British should spawn. So I'm not too worried about this approach. There's no cover here except for a couple of trees. I don't think they'll use this, and if they do, they will be punished. I have got some emergency squads or sections placed here, just in case they do push up and get past here. They'll be ambushed at close range. As for the left here, this was a bit of a difficult decision. I did in the end choose to put some of my troops up front, which might seem obvious because it provides the best field of fire here, but it also means that they're very exposed. This machine gun squad can fire at all of these buildings, all of the street, but it can also be fired back at from all of those buildings. So I'm gonna place them up here for now, cause as many casualties as we can, and if it gets too hot, I'll try to get them out of there again. The good thing is we've got these walled courtyards back here, which they can use to exfil and get back into a better position. I've got one machine gun positioned up here, which is able to cover all of these houses, should the enemy get in there. I think the chief weakness in my defense is this set of buildings right here, because it's basically the only place the British could, if they wanted to, get into relatively unpunished. I've got the MG up here, but if they were to move from these buildings through these trees, I'd have limited coverage. These MGs up here can only cover up to about here. This MG up here. So theoretically there's a bit of a blind spot right in the middle here. And once the enemy does get into these buildings, I think I'll have trouble containing them, and they'll be able to building hop their way through my defenses. And the disadvantage of trying to defend the whole width of the map is that I don't have a lot of depth in my defense. And that's one of the chief weaknesses here. Up on the right here, from our perspective, I've got 2 MGs covering this street, which is going to be a major avenue of approach for the British. I've got several MGs and regular infantry squads covering keyhole positions right between these buildings, between this building. That way I'm trying to put the enemy inside of a crossfire, and I'm also trying to deny them movement into the rear of my defenses. So I'm kind of banking here on ambush tactics, very narrow fields of fire in keyhole positions, which means that my troops won't be able to be fired at from as many locations. They're kind of hidden here, yet they will be able to deny the enemy the crossing of this street, except at high casualties. That's basically what the entirety of my defense looks like. Same up here, trying to put my troops in as much cover as they can possibly be with a narrow field of fire, but I am trying to cover every possible enemy approach. Same here, with an MG over here covering this part of the street, and MG covering this part. They're mutually supporting each other. The only thing is, if the enemy does break through, I don't really have anything to hold them back. I've got a very small tactical reserve here of 1 squad held back there and 1 squad held back here. They're kind of the fire brigade. If anything does go wrong, I'll be able to rush them in and try to plug any gaps in my defenses. Right, all that being said, let's not wait any longer. Let's click the start battle button and see how we do. The enemy doesn't have a very well covered spawn back there, so I'm kind of surprised we didn't immediately spot some of them. There we are though. Speak of the devil. I don't hope this is going to be the main avenue of advance for them. It would be the smartest option, but there we go. I hadn't even considered this keyhole position. I kind of placed these guys here to cover this keyhole right here. I didn't even realize that I had a field of fire down here, but that's excellent. Because while they may not be able to hold the enemy back forever, they will cause casualties and they will slow them down. They might even make them decide to take another approach, say around here, which is far better covered than this section right here. You can see here, we're able to cause casualties, but we can't stop all of those troops. There's just too many of them. And they'll probably start building up a base of fire here, which will force these guys out of the building. Another MG has opened up. These long range fields of fire of my MGs are paying off right now. We're able to pin the enemy as early as possible. Kind of what I was hoping to avoid. They're able to cross the street here and get in here, which is another weak spot in my defense, because once they hop through these buildings, they'll be able to engage my machine gun and my squads here at close range, which I don't think will win. However, once they do take this, they'll still have to cross the street here, which is covered by this machine gun. Let's take it. Quick pause here and see how we're doing. The British are advancing here successfully. As you can see, they're pretty heavy in the automatic weapons in those squads. 2 Stens and a Bren in this one. Another Sten, another Bren. And that's really is the danger of those of the British airborne infantry. They're well trained and they're well equipped. Several casualties being caused here. It looks as though, yeah, they're kind of doing what I was afraid they'd be doing, crossing over here. And as you can see, I am able to cause some casualties. Actually, significant casualties here. But there's still elements pushing through. Same on this side. They're doing the smart thing. They're taking the shortest possible crossing they can take. They're not staying out in the open for too long. And soon they'll be able to engage me at close range, at which point I'll be at a definite disadvantage. The one thing the AI isn't very clever about is setting up a base of fire before it advances its troops. It kind of just rushes in. Taking our first casualty here. Obviously the machine gunner, prime target, as it constitutes the main firepower of a German squad. And these guys were in a very exposed position. A lot of enemy were able to see them and fire at them, and they paid for that. Already these squads are getting pinned and taking casualties, which is kind of what I expected. I think I'm going to keep them here just a bit longer, just as long as British troops are pouring out of this street, hoping they'll cause some more casualties, and after that I'll pull them back. Starting to build up a base of fire here in and around this building, and I don't really have anything else except this MG. They've got a beautiful field of fire here, but they're receiving a lot of fire as well. The squad has already decided it's had enough. These guys should probably move as well. There's no use getting them all killed. I hope the machine gun can do some good work still. There you go, first casualty in here. Again, the gunner. Surprises there. That is one hell of a shame. I was hoping I'd be able to hold them back longer here. The MG has decided it has had enough. I don't want to abandon this MG in here though. So I will pull them back in there ASAP. Okay, they have taken the MG with them. Right, let's give this a think for a minute. Putting them back in there would probably be suicide. But I really want to maintain pressure on this building here. Let's see, would they have a shot from this building? No, there's no windows here, unfortunately. Alright. In that case, what about here? No. Well, they might actually. Yeah, there might be a narrow field of fire there. So let's move them back here first, let them recover for a bit. Okay, yeah, another gunner down. As soon as they recover the gun, I'll move them out of here. On the right flank, we seem to be doing better. Look at this. I'm not sure how many troops managed to cross and get into these buildings. Maybe none, maybe some, who knows. But out here on the right, we've pretty much got them contained. We've got no advances over here yet, which means we're really able to focus all of our fire on this little keyhole. And the British are suffering for it. Up here in the center and the left though, I'm less confident. Seems this is the main weight of their attack right now. And they're really successfully just moving forward by superior firepower here. They've got so many automatic weapons lined up here, firing into the isolated machine guns and small fire teams of soldiers here, which just aren't able to answer that kind of firepower and just start taking casualties, start getting pinned down, and they just have to retreat. That might have been couldn't have been a Panzerfaust. I don't think anyone has a shot at this building. I think the British just decided to blow a hole in that wall. I'm not sure. Highly confused. Alright. Yeah, these guys need to get out of here. Even if they have to abandon the gun for a minute, I think that's the price we're gonna have to pay. Let's get them out into the courtyard. I thought they took the gun with them. Let's see. I don't think it's back here. Let's see. Yeah, I think he has it. Kind of recovered. Let's move them in here. See if they can be of any use from that building. Look at the amount of fire coming in here. We're not even able to displace it. Take a casualty here. Okay, I'd actually set up this squad to cover this side, but they got into contact over on this side. Let's see how that turns out. Probably not going well for them. No, they're getting pinned. Let's move them down here so they're covered by these garden walls. These guys are just completely eradicated here. I waited too long with moving those guys back. Now, what I'm really banking on here is this MG stopping any troops trying to cross into this row of buildings, which it will have a hard time doing on its own. These guys are once again extremely pinned. I don't think it's any use moving them in here. Let's get them out as well. These guys are licking their wounds. That's fine. Move these guys into this building where they can cover this alley. Right flank still seems relatively quiet. Now I still got this reserve squad here, which I might want to start putting into action right now. To stall the enemy advance over here. We do have some more troops up here though, but they don't really have a window to fire through here. Nor here. So they'll only be able to open fire as the enemy is already up here. It seems that the MG squad panicked, tried to escape through this door, which signed their deaths. Unfortunately, if they had just retreated through the back door into the garden, they'd have been fine. It's just the AI for you. I guess I'll just have to hope that the enemy tries to move through the streets and not the buildings. Hope they're able to get out of there, hopefully with the machine gun. They're really far up here already. They're about to run into these Germans. Okay, next keyhole position is starting to pay off here. Let's see, guys. This unit here with one machine gun right here is able to cover a very narrow sector, which means it isn't very exposed, yet it's still denying use of this street to most British troops. So it's far more difficult to build a fire superiority here. They might do by sheer numbers, firepower here. They're definitely making headway, and they seem to be moving into the buildings here. So let's start preparing for that. We've got the 1MG up here, which I hope will be able to do some good work from its top floor window here. And then we've got some troops in these buildings, just covering this courtyard. Also from this side, covering this approach. And all we can hope for is that the enemy doesn't build up too much of firepower in these buildings and doesn't drive us from these buildings here. So seems to engage this machine gun fairly effectively. We're now retreating, meaning that this street is basically open for any British troops to advance here. Got a casualty over here. Yeah, that's the team that was covering this keyhole. They weren't able to hold it, unfortunately. The British have now run into the next squad up here. They're taking significant casualties for every inch of ground they advance on. We are in significant danger of being overrun in the center here. They're very close. So these guys try to set up here. And I think I'll have the squad that I've been holding in reserve rush up to, let's say, not this building, they're too exposed in here. But the next building over, right here. I think they'll be able to get through there, through this building, then into there, and at least cover the street, because the British are just relentlessly advancing here. And being engaged with some company HQs here. SMG is relocating. Very good idea. It's interesting that they did it by themselves. I deployed them up here. They now, out of their own volition, chose to go up here. It's definitely a good idea to leave them here. But I didn't know the AI could do that. Just look at the amount of troops they've got built up here. There's just no way I'm going to be able to stop that. Okay, these guys have pulled back. Make that a quick move. Try to set them up in such a way as they can cover the street again, hopefully. Just no stopping these guys. They're swarming us. Look at that. So they're running out into the open, which is definitely going to get all of them killed. Oh my god. Come on, did not make it. With hindsight, I might have been better off setting up the MGs up here, further back, where they've got a slightly worse shield of fire, but because of these trees, but they'd be far more difficult to take out. Valuable yet expensive lesson to learn. Oh, no, you don't. Okay. Apparently, they can't get in there from that angle. I do not want them out on the street. Matter of fact, let's see. Alright, get in here. And through there, get in... Well, actually stay in there. They've got a kind of a view up to here. They're really not advancing on that right side, so I'm gonna shift my other reserve squad up here as well. They're throwing everything they got at this street, so I'm gonna have to build up some more solid defenses here. Got another kind of a keyhole position here. If I were able to get any troops in there in time to intercept the British as they advance. See if there's anything I can miss. Or relocate, perhaps. These guys have been severely battered here. Not sure if I started them off in this position or whether they retreated here. This team hasn't been thoroughly engaged yet. So let's have them actually move back out of the building. In here. From there they should be able... They aren't? No, they're not quite able to see anything from there. So perhaps I move them into this building. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay. It's actually pretty close as well. There. Oops. Cover this area. Move another team into the second floor. So I'm sacrificing some coverage up here to just draw firepower on this area. Let's see, they're also pushing into these buildings. And we're able to kind of keep their heads down for now, but if they get too many troops in here, they'll just overwhelm us. And this position too will fall. See them moving through the alleys here. They'll cut down because of the keyhole positions I've got here as well. Actually, do I? Hang on, it's kind of difficult to tell. Right, this building here. They can fire at the very entrance here, and the enemy isn't able to build up fire superiority here unless they get troops in here, which they are doing. So once they get enough troops in here, they can overwhelm these guys, move through here. Then they go around the next corner, and they meet the next keyhole position. But that is in fact already engaged with enemy troops up in these buildings, so if they keep this up, I'm afraid my defense here will fall apart. These. There's just too many of them. Alright, looks like I got these guys in here just in time. Catch the enemy as they cross this part of the street. They don't empty the British paratroopers when they cross these kinds of streets. They're extremely brave, the way they're pushing up here. But in fact, they're almost into the objective here. Just, they're meters away from neutralizing the objective. And I don't really have anything left to stop them here. These guys are already taking casualties. They're barely in there and they're already taking casualties. Got another squad in here which isn't doing anything right now. I'm gonna route them back through the alleys. And I'm not sure as to whether I want them in this building as well, or whether I want to move them further back to cover the objective itself. I've already got this squad moving up here, but they might actually be too late to do anything about that. What I could do is move in here. Probably a better idea. Now I'm getting into a lot of close range knife fights here with British paratroopers that I'm just not equipped to win. But it's the alternative is allowing them into this objective. Right, so what are we gonna do with this squad? Through there. Let's see. Okay, there's a wall there, so that's not a lot of use. It's really a maze of walls and gardens and buildings here. Alright, let's see. Can they move through this? Yeah, they can move through here. And they come out on this side. Just look at this maze. Let's see. Right, they can move into... walled off as well. Into here. Alright, okay, there's a gap here. not sure I'm taking the most efficient route here. But it is what it is. Move them through. Move them through. Stage them over there. Casualties up here on the bridge. Apparently they're into the building already. Okay, wait, hang on. That's not a door. Right. New plan. Get in there. From there, move into here. Please be quick about it. Because we're losing our grip here. Hang on. No. Okay, apparently there's no way to... There's no connecting door here. In order to get into this building, they'd have to expose themselves. I don't want that. Right, what do you do here? Let's see. Alright, they can move through here. Like that. They are now well and truly into the objective. And I don't really have much left to stop them. Now this is exactly... It's actually... You can visually see what went wrong here. It's a very thin line, very broad, thin line. The enemy just concentrates on one part of it, pushes through, and gets through. It's a very basic concept of concentrating your forces on one point and breaking through. And all these troops I've got here are just doing nothing. And while I'd like to just move them, I think I'm gonna have to make a very large reconstruction of my defensive line here, because they've just broken through it. I'm gonna have to do something to stop them in their tracks ASAP. So let's start with these machine guns. Move them into those buildings. As fast as they possibly can. Like that. Make them choose their own routes. They're not in too much danger of being shot at right now. These guys are taking a really long detour. Let's give them a quick move command. Let them find their own way. Just basically moving everyone I can back. Try and stop the enemy here. Guys are just decimated here. These guys just have a rifleman left. And we're holding on here, but the enemy isn't really pushing here because they don't need to. If they can isolate me here and just move in here, that's perfect for them. About to overrun my battalion HQ back here. position is still doing work, but they've been heavily damaged. These guys are right now moving into this building. Somehow one of them not sure how that works. Let's push the enemy out of this building. Dead. The reinforcements are rushing, hauling ass back here to put a plug in this gap. They've pushed up really far to get a foothold on these buildings, which they have. They'll be able to defend pretty effectively and hold on to the objective. And apparently they've already got shots on my troops up here, which is very unfortunate. Just build this real quick. Try and put up some kind of resistance. At least we're at long range here, where our weapons are somewhat more effective, or better able to compete with the enemy weapons. Since they push over this hump, you're done. We are putting up resistance now in here. You guys should get into the building proper, all of you. At least we're able to make this stuff up here. At least pin them down. Right here, definitely. Let's see what I can do about displacing this machine gun here to a point where it actually has some use. Could put it in here, but be very close range. Let's route it around back through here. Maybe try to get it set up in here or something. There you go. These guys I want to stick with over here, because they're able to cover the street still. Would be nice if we were able to cut the enemy off here, finish off what's in here, and hold off the rest of what's over there. But I think that's kind of too ambitious right now. The forces we have, we'd be lucky to hold what we have right now. Alright. Now, I can't be sure, but I have to assume the British are all over these buildings, maybe even already in here. SMG is still up, which I want it to be down there. This building, covering this part of the street. These guys gonna do the same, except from this building. I have to be very flexible here. Can't win every fight. However, just look at the casualties we caused here. British are pushing through, but they're only pushing through because they got basically 3 companies full of paratroopers, and we get 2 depleted companies. Our numbers are pushing them through, but it's also their concentration onto one single point of all their forces that I'm just not able to answer right now. See, these guys have taken a casualty already, not the gunner for once though. Let's hope we can knock them off this ridge before they push over. And let's hope they don't push under here. I think they are though. It'll be a real challenge to kick them out of this objective. I'm not sure we'll be able to do that. Casualty-wise, I think we've got a favorable ratio right now though. Take a look at the street. Alright. Another problem is that since the enemy now controls these buildings here, I won't be able to push any reinforcements back over to attack from over here or defend over here. What I could try to do is cut off... No, not really, not with the forces I have over here. I'm not really going to be cutting anything off with what I've got left. But I'm gonna try. Move everything back. Just do a staging point up here. Who still has a weapon should get back. Let's also try and take at least one squad from over here. No intact squads left here except this one. Get them into these buildings here. Try and contain some of the damage that's being done right now. And reinforcing this building to try and stop further reinforcements from flooding in. There's only so much I can do here. Pushing up now. I don't think my battalion HQ is going to stop him. Got a few small units left here though that I might be able to orient in such a way that they might be able to pick off any single British squads moving up, but even that is wishful thinking. Single rifleman here. That's what it's come down to right now. Single rifleman. It's pushing up even in the face of the withering fire. This has paid off. Cutting down a lot of the British troops from the so from this position right here and over here. And these guys have discovered though that the British are indeed well established in these buildings. And punished for it. Sure why I have vision inside this building. These guys are dead. I can still see inside. Maybe there could be British troops in here. I just can't see them. What a fight. I think the battalion HQ just engaged with a hand grenade. Gotta give him props.
Just 2 pistols and a rifle, couple of grenades. They're actually causing casualties among those British troops there. And they're all that's holding them back from crossing here. Okay, I'm building up a lot of forces here, not all of whom have effective shots onto the enemy. Perhaps with this MG, I want to run the gauntlet here, get across, and try and set up in such a way that I can cover the enemy infiltration here. Let's give it a go. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Unfortunately, with the amount of troops we've pulled back, the enemy is now able to push through these alleys without the amount of resistance I'd like to give them. Cut down that advance over here. Oh lord. Terrible screen right there. Just pushed out. Yeah, and they're across. Let's see how the battalion commander holds up here. He's still got his binoculars in his hands. There he goes. What a hero. They cut down one. Another runs right back. Here. And the battalion commander is down. Just a radio and I'm alive here. I don't think he's long for this world. Stay where you are, man. He doesn't want to stay where he is. Well, a heroic last stand for that commander. Sure, he'll leave some. We'll get some kind of medal. Of course. Now the British start moving in here. What's this? What the? How did he get there? Oh my god. This guy. Oh, we got some guys in the river as well? I'm not sure. Do they have snorkels on their helmets? Yeah, they're across. They're across, and I've got nothing to stop them. Well, I say that. The MG apparently got across. Is there any way for them to be of any use here? I could try to move them in here, but they'd probably be cut down. I could just settle for having them in this window here. Setting up that MG. Over there. These guys are still moving. Okay. Not sure what kind of route these guys took. Let's get them moving up further to this row of buildings. Some of them are continuously getting killed, regardless of the amount of fire we're putting down here. It's just a tidal wave. Hang on. They surrendered. Oh my god, I didn't think there'd be any chance we'd be winning this one. But they surrendered. It must have been the casualties there. They suffered 149 killed, 105 wounded. Only had 54 men left. I suffered not even half of their casualties. But I did lose a lot of ground here. So I think that given the amount of men they had left, and given enough time, we might have been able to push them out if they didn't surrender. Because I think realistically, had this happened, they wouldn't have surrendered. The AI just chose to do so because it lost so many troops. But they held. Actually less than I thought they would. I thought they had a lot of troops in these buildings here, but it seems that whatever got through the gauntlet of fire that was being put down from over here just didn't have the strength left in their squads to put up any real fight. These guys too were down to just a couple of men. Just to show you that the fog of war is kind of misleading sometimes. Sometimes it seems like the enemy is just completely overpowering you, while in reality they're only holding on by a thread. You've got very little left, but while I admire the AI's choice to push through a single sector to concentrate its forces, this probably wasn't the best approach to take. It's a clear run to the bridge from there, but had they moved here through the buildings, the courtyards, just taken out my isolated squads one by one, they'd have gone further with fewer casualties. Now the fact that I had such a thinly defended line meant that they were able to push through, but partly because of the defenders already there, and partly because of the reserves that I pulled in, they paid such a high price here that they weren't able to hold on to what they had, and they surrendered. And I kind of understand that they did. 149 men killed, about as many wounded. It's insane. I lost plenty. 45 killed, 40 wounded, 1 missing. He probably surrendered. Or it might have been the guy that fell off the edge into the water there. But I still had almost 160 men. Okay. Now versus a force of 54, they probably would have been able to win. Alright, a very interesting battle. I'd like to hear what you think about it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next time.